As is coming up to my 100th video on this channel, I wanted to go into more detail in one of my most popular videos, which is moving out of my parents' house. Now, this is a topic that got a lot of traction and a lot of comments and opinions, and I felt like it really related to a lot of my followers. Coming from the backgrounds that we're from, Asian backgrounds, Indian, Pakistani, Afghani, Middle Eastern, culturally, it is absolutely unacceptable and unheard of for an unmarried woman to move out of her parents' house and live independently. But in the societies that we live in today, it's very normal. It's a very normal part of growing up and getting on with your life. And this is where we're stuck. This is what we struggle with. Do you follow your heart and do what you really want to do and live the life that you feel that you deserve and you've earned? Or do you allow generational curses to dictate and kind of go with the flow? In this video, I wanted to make a few key points for you guys to consider if and when you decide to move out of your parents' house. Because in my previous video, I talk about my journey and what I did, but I feel like I need to go into more detail about it and give you guys the skills and things that you need to really make it happen, to actually take that step. So if you haven't been to my page, welcome. I'm Hamasa. I look at personal development as well as mental and emotional well-being and just day-to-day issues. If you haven't subscribed to my page, please do so that you're up to date with all my weekly videos covering various topics such as this. So please do write in the comments below anything else that you would like me to look into. I moved out from my parents' house almost 12 years ago, and I couldn't tell you guys how much this has helped me in all aspects of my life, but especially my relationship with my parents. We've come leaps and bounds, and we're at such a good place, and we have such a good understanding. Ever since I moved out and started doing things for myself and learning and growing and respecting and regarding my parents in a very different light to the way that I used to see them when I used to live at home. I used to kind of think that they're adults, they should know it all, or they should figure it out, or it's them, that this is their problem. It sounds like a them problem. Not my problem. I'm a kid, I live at home, I'm their responsibility. Moving out really put things into perspective and changed that dynamic into how I see money management, bills, households, dealing with things by yourself, making decisions. And so it just gave me more of an insight of what my parents had to deal with. On top of that, have my brother and I to deal with as well. So some of the things that you need to consider before moving out is, first and foremost, your finances. I could not stress this enough. If you don't have your finances sorted, don't even think about moving out. It's just not worth the hassle if you know that you cannot support yourself for at least the next 6 to 8 months, meaning that you have your rent and deposit and everything covered potentially for at least 6 to 8 months before you even think about moving out. Because moving out in a haste and like out of anger, out of spite, is never going to work. So what you need to do is to plan it and to think about it, because it shouldn't be because you're angry or you're trying to make a point. It should be because you have a reason or you really want to move your life forward. And if that's the case, which should be the case of you moving out, then you really need to plan this ahead. So start saving. Because when you live by yourself, it isn't just the rent. Some of you may know, some of you may not. I wasn't that in the know about it. There are a ton of different types of living accommodation. You can flat share, you could live in a sort of communal accommodation or anything that your finances permits you, but do your research and put the money aside. When you move out, it's not just the rent. You have your deposit to consider, you have the agency fees, you have bills cancel tax. There are so many other things, and then on top of that, your groceries, your day-to-day maintenance, things go wrong, like if you need, whether you need to buy furniture, whether you need to buy bedding and things like that, that when you live at home, it's kind of just there. You don't think about those things. So when you move out, there is 101 expenses on top of the rent. This is why you need to be able to support yourself and know how much it costs. So when you make that decision or take that step, that you're okay and you're covered. Finances first and foremost. Once you start saving up and you have your finances, you really need to think about the reason why you want to move out. For me, it was for work. I used to have castings all day, every day, 10, 15 castings as a model. And it was really difficult for me to commute from where my parents lived into Central to do the castings. It cost me a lot of time, it cost me a lot of money. I was always exhausted, I'd come home really late. I didn't drive at the time, and you can't really drive in Central London anyway, so I had to get public transport. I was a kid. By the time I moved out, obviously I wasn't a kid, but this is how I started my modeling career, and so it was the same thing. So as I graduated university and I was earning enough to be able to support myself is when I spoke to my parents and discussed this. But you have to have the right reasons. Having a little bit of freedom, wanting to have a bit of fun, wanting to chill and whatever, vibe out with your friends isn't a reason enough for you to move out for in your parents' eyes. Although in the society that we live in the West, of course that's a reason enough. You're grown up, you should move out. But in our cultures, there needs to be something a little bit more solid for our parents. Like, if it means that your reasoning is because you want to pursue your career, your reasoning is because you want to study and you need the peace and you need to concentrate on it, you want to be able to learn how to money manage, you want to be able to develop and grow and evolve, and all of these things are better reasons. There has to be something a little bit more that you can earn that trust from your parents. Sitting them down, telling them I want to move out because I want to have fun is never going to go down well, and they're never going to agree to you. So what you need to do is to think of the reasons why, very solid and very valid reasons that you should move out and how moving out will help and improve you. Your reason is incredibly important when it comes to speaking to your parents about this. And before you approach your parents, you have to understand, like I said earlier, doing this out of anger, out of spite, being angry, being wound up, out of resent, is never going to work. All you're doing is hurting yourself and creating a ton of problems for yourself and for your parents, for the relationship with your parents. You've got to be in a place where you are good with your parents. You've got to be able to communicate to them. You've got to do it, like I said, planned out. If you want it to work, if you want it to have longevity, you have to plan it out. Save up, really think about what you can and cannot do. Have your reasons ready. Because, God forbid, you never know. If anything happens to you, whether you can't do it emotionally, whether you don't feel ready to be by yourself or living alone, or in shared accommodation with people you don't know, be it because you can't afford it financially, you want to have that relationship and that door open within your parents' house. You want to have your family's support, and you want to know that if anything doesn't work out, or you can't go anywhere else, or you're finding it difficult, that you will always be welcome back home, and that your parents are supportive and understanding of you. In making this video, I had a long chat with my mom. My mother is amazing. She's so clued on and so sharp and so with it, and she always advises and guides me. And when it comes to videos like this, it's all well and good for me to sit here and talk of these things from a daughter's perspective, but we also have to work and win with our parents over. And for me, I needed to ask her, and I said, how would want to be approached? Let's say we rewind this 10, 12 years ago when I did move out. how should I have approached you that you would have felt more comfortable with? And she said that having you and your brother here, or culturally, or growing up, like, our parents take care of us. Your dad does maybe the groceries and brings things home, and your mom cooks and cleans. It's just a culture thing. Like, they constantly take care of you. They do things for you. Like, my mom kills herself for us. She cooks like 15 different dishes for me, my brother, my dad, because we all have different tastes. Like, she does so much. And she's like, I never realized how much I used to take on. And when I was younger, I had the energy and the stamina to be able to do it. But since you and your brother, well, my brother's still at home, but he's in between like a few places. So he's not home all the time. He works full time. So the workload has really decreased on her, the physical, and my dad. And she's like, I would have never known this. And as I'm getting older and I'm realizing that I just don't have that strength anymore, there is no way I could have upkept, but I would have had to, because that's what we've always done, and that's just what I would want to do had you lived at home. And she's like, these are some of the things that would be put into perspective to a parent if their child comes and explains to them. Like, I'm grown up now, I'm in my mid-20s, or however old you may be. I'm a whole adult. And you, as someone who's getting older, you know, who needs more rest, who needs to be taken care of instead of taking care of us, is struggling. And you have you have dad, and you have maybe the younger siblings, and I'm also adding a load of mine on top of yours, possibly. Even if, for example, tidying your room. Me living alone, if I don't want to tidy my room for 2 days, I can live with that. But when it's at home, my mom would tell me, tidy your room. And I'm busy and I can't do it. I come home and my room's tidied. Now she's annoyed because she has to tidy my room, or she feels that she should because it's her home and it's a mess and she doesn't like looking at it. Even though, had she waited, I would have done it. I would be annoyed because she's gone through my stuff and I feel like my privacy has been invaded, and I don't really like that. It's my space, it's my things. She puts things into cupboards that shouldn't be there, and then I can't find them. So I'm not really, I'm appreciative, but I'm a bit wound up. She's wound up. And things like that happen, and it's not because you put your load on your parents, it's just because when you live under their roof, they like things a certain way, and they're going to do that whether you do it or not. Living alone, you have that freedom of yourself, and also it takes the load of your parents. So give them your reasoning as to why and how this will improve your life, the reasons that you really thought of, and did your research, and have like something to, you have an argument. You have something solid to sit them down and explain this to them. The second thing would be to tell them how much easier life would be for them if you move out, and how normal and natural it is in today's society and day and age to do this. In our cultures, we always assume the absolute worst. If you live out, you must be doing something wrong. But you need to show and make your parents understand that, how about the flip side of it? Why is it that in our community only the bad is considered and taken into account? What about the good? Why are you not considering what things could be better if I move out? How much I'll learn about life, how much I'll evolve, how much I'll develop, how far I could pursue it, what the skills I learned that would come so valuable to me in my future life with my partner or kids. These are the things that our parents worry about. So these are the things that we need to reassure them on. Not only do we need our parents' support because that's the right thing to do, but also having your parents on your side will make things considerably easy when it comes to the wider community and extended family members. Because again, in our cultures, the community and family members feel entitled that they can and should say something when it comes time to their nieces, nephews, cousins, whatever. And if you have your parents supporting you and having your back, whenever someone comes over, the first thing that your parents should say or need to say is that, yeah, I allowed her or him to move out. I asked them to, in fact, because I'm getting older and I can't do this anymore, and therefore it makes life easier. We needed the space, she needed the space. Because that straight away will shut down friends and family and community. It's really no one's business. It's really your parents' business. But if your parent is a little bit hesitant, hums and haws, and is a little like, yeah, you're right, that gives people ammunition. And also they will start planting seeds and try and flip your parents, because it's like, oh no, that's a bad thing. So how are they letting their daughter? I need to do something about it. It may not necessarily always come from a bad place, but it doesn't mean that it's right or wanted at that. So if your parents shut it down, nip it in the bud, it really gives no one else anything to say. Because if an auntie sees you out, it's like, oh yeah, my mom knows. This is for the better for everybody. We're good. What can they say? So that's why it's important for you to be able to communicate this clearly, win your parents over, make them understand, have solid reasons, have your finances ready, so that they could nip it in the bud with the extended community and family. And if it means that you must compromise in certain bits just to prove, so that it's not just talk, you're not just reassuring your parents because you want to say the right things and then get the hell out of there, you're doing it because you want to prove a point and earn their trust, then maybe compromise in things like maybe you shouldn't move too far away. Maybe you should live closer to your parents when you first move, so that they feel comfortable, and if they need to visit, they can do that. And then slowly you earn that, you build your trust, and then you get more and more freedom. And your parents will feel like, okay, she's listening, she doesn't have anything to hide, she's only down the road. If anything happens to her, we can get to her. I mean, when I say down the road, it doesn't have to be literally on your parents' road, but just within reach, that your parents could reach you, your family, easily, and it doesn't feel like you're right across the country or across town. Small steps, baby steps, and then you can work your way up to living wherever you want. Because it's all about trust and respect on both sides. And you need to earn and build that. Because the alternative to this is that a lot of girls feel pressured into getting married to get that freedom and move out of the parents' house, because they feel like they want to have a place of their own and do their own thing. And the issue with that is that not always they get what they want. Secondly, they rush into marriages and weddings without getting to know their partner and end up in abusive relationships. Thirdly, who's to say that if you leave your parents' that you won't end up at your in-laws or at your very possessive husband's house? And those are not the reasons for you to end up wanting to marry someone and potentially ruining your life. Potentially it might go great and work out, but if it doesn't, you're doing it for the reasons just to get away from your parents. And if your parents really truly want you to be happy, they should be able to see that and understand that if I don't let her move out, she might just rush into a marriage. And at the end of the day, I'm doing this to protect her and make sure she's happy. And I should give her that trust and know and trust my own parenting skills, that I've taught them enough for them to have the right morals, values, standards, and know right from wrong. And now it's my time to sit back, reap the fruits of the seeds that I planted. This is the work that I put in, and now they can lead life and do things. That's the right environment that you want to create with your parents. Make them understand and make them proud. If you guys found this helpful, please do share it with someone who may need it. Please subscribe to my channel, like and comment on this video, and I will see you guys here again next week. Mwah.